You already know what time it is. I don't even have to say anything.
I think you might have to say it, though.
I think I have to say it to them.
Say what?
What's going on, Titans? Welcome back to another episode of Daily Titan Podcast, or DT Pod for short. In today's episode, we're going to be breaking down Volume 118, Issue number 12 of the Daily Titan Student Newspaper. In this episode today, we're going to be going over a couple of stories, including an update on City Council. We're also going to be talking about a recent art event that was held in downtown Fullerton. We're also going to cover an opinion about communication, and we're going to be talking about some men's basketball. Stay tuned, Titans. And before I forget, I'm one of your co-hosts and your layout editor, Kabeer, Kansara, and I'm joined with
your other co-host and assistant news editor, Demiana, Ghobrial. For our top story of the week, we have a story on City Council written by staff writer Gregory Ferraro, and here to talk with us about what happened in City Council this past week, we have Michelle King, our news editor.
Hello.
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 Hi.
So, this week in City Council, they actually revisited a decision that they had decided a little while ago. Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
So, 2 weeks ago, the City Council voted to kind of create further direction on creating two funds for those who have been impacted by ICE raids to kind of help with costs of legal defense and basic needs. So there would be two funds of $100,000 each, and that passed 3-2 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And it was brought back up at this past City Council meeting to kind of further discuss. And some of the issues that were brought up 2 weeks ago were about where this funding would come from, whether the city kind of had the means to provide this funding or where the funding would come from altogether. So they brought it back this week to talk about, and it ended up being tabled, so kind of put aside, which was also a 3-2 vote. So we had Councilmember Jamie Valencia kind of changing her mind on that vote. She had initially voted yes to implement the funds, and then this past week she voted yes to table it.
Yeah, and one of the driving factors behind tabling this decision is the deficit that Fullerton has kind of found itself operating in for a while now. That's been like kind of a concern that's been present at a lot of like Fullerton City Council meetings.
Yes, they do have a significant deficit. They're in a $3.8 million deficit right now, and it is expected to increase quite exponentially. So there were a lot of concerns about creating these funds, which is it's not an insignificant amount of money. $200,000 for both of the funds is not insignificant in a $3.8 million deficit.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
I think this was obviously met with some pushback, some disappointment from residents of Fullerton. Mm-hmm. A lot of people talked about how these funds, or like the reserves that they would have like been taken out of potentially, are used for emergencies, and they kind of were, in their own words, classifying like increased immigration raids as kind of that emergency. So I think a lot of people were disappointed that the status of the fund was just kind of
they have
halted
a
abruptly.
really huge reserve. It's almost $31 million in reserves, which is enough to cover their deficit currently. So they have plenty of money. But a lot of the council members kind of also stated that their concerns for the increasing deficit, which is kind of projected over the next 5 years, if they start, spending their reserve, they won't have enough to cover that by the time that time comes.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And with them tabling this conversation, did they say when they would want to revisit it?
I don't believe that they did. I'm sure it will come back up pretty soon. A lot of residents were really pro these funds being established, and council members Zara and Charles are both pretty vocal about this, so I would expect them to bring it up again.
And with this $200,000 being saved, of $100,000 for each fund, did they say exactly how they put this money to use in terms of either like filling in that deficit, or how they would allocate this money to go to other causes?
So the money for the funds would go specifically to help those who need like lawyers or legal defense, who have been detained, or to cover rent or food costs for the families of those who have been detained as well. And that was kind of also something that Dunlap brought up. He was concerned that these funds going to really specific groups wasn't necessarily for the betterment of all of Fullerton, that he would rather see this type of money go to kind of a wider cause that would impact everyone in Fullerton, which was also met with some backlash, but that was kind of his reasoning behind it.
You talked about the backlash that was faced with the decision to table the conversation for now. And in reading the article, that seems pretty apparent in some of the interviews that were included in the article. One such being a Cal State Fullerton sociology student and member of the OC Rapid Response Network, Bianca Andres. She talked about students being scared to go out and protest peacefully and exercise their basic rights. With these funds, they're obviously seeing this as an emergency, which would mean that these emergency funds would be put to proper use. But do you think that there's any indication of how the city could support citizens that are more fearful in ways that come from alternative means outside of these funds?
So Fullerton semi-recently joined a lawsuit against Christine kind of speaking out against what is going on with ICE raids. And not necessarily specific to Fullerton, but impacting kind of our community. The governor recently signed a bunch of legislation, one of them being Senate Bill 98, which requires educational institutions to warn students when immigration agents are on campus. And the CSU is kind of in the process of setting up some framework for that. So there is stuff going on kind of in our community, not necessarily all set up by the city, but stuff that is happening to kind of help the community out in this time.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of all we had for you. Thank you for coming to help talk about this.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
I love being here.
We'll see you so soon.
Yes, so soon. Bye.
All right, then. They're going to take a brief stroll through the lifestyle section and talk about a recent artwork that happened in downtown Fullerton centered on Dia de los Muertos.
This is so crazy. Would you happen to be talking about the article written by Jenny Guzman talking about this art walk?
That's so crazy because it's exactly what I'm referring to.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah.
What do they have in the art walk?
So in this article, Jenny kind of goes over the sort of purpose of the art walk and the sort of impact it provided to the local community. So the art walk happened last Friday in downtown Fullerton. And it featured a couple different groups. It basically just gave people a chance to showcase their artwork that they've been working on. But it wasn't just about showcasing artwork. It was also about developing the connections between the community and also being able to explain why the artwork was important to each person that participated. Yeah, so the art walk centered on different demographics and different ways people could kind of showcase their artwork through an entertainment media outlet, XZBT, I believe it's pronounced Exhibit. But what Jenny did a great job in highlighting in her article was just the sort of the vividness of the artwork. I feel like the detail was really captured, talking about the different sort of textures that were used, the different ways that the art sort of interacted with the viewers and the way it made people feel. But also a big part of it was how it made artists feel. Yeah, so one such artist that was mentioned in the article was Susie Silva, who painted a piece in honor of her late aunt. But she also emphasized that into the way it helps her remember other people in her family. And the sort of remembrance and belonging was a consistent theme throughout the art walk, with different groups sort of showcasing art in different ways that develop different impacts to the community.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was interesting was the Night Owl Cafe took part in this, and they have been known to host musical events in downtown Fullerton, but then they decided to kind of step further into other mediums of art by featuring these visual artists on this art walk. I thought that was interesting because it's kind of a really, I would say it's a pretty known hangout place for people who want to a coffee and to listen to some live music. So I think kind of using that platform to showcase cultural works like these was
Absolutely.
A really interesting step.
Definitely. And one thing that I think my favorite part of the article was the mention of the Fullerton Council Parent-Teacher Association Reflections, who they also had a showcase as part of this art walk called I Belong. And it basically allowed each student and each artist that participated to show different art that reflected their personal sense of belonging in the community. And a quote that I really appreciate from that was just, with the way the political climate is, I belong is very important, because they represent kids, so it's very important that they have this outlet to be able to express themselves. But the art walk really focused on people being able to sort of not only show off their artwork, but show how the meaning they imbue behind it is reflected in what they present to others.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I have a question for you.
Okay, what's up?
If you could make one crazy large art exhibit to feature on like a collection of art, what would the theme be to like feature on like an art walk?
I think it has to be something related to India or like my grandma, like something about that kind of cultural draw, because that's, I think, in my life just where I've seen the most consistently crazy art and like the coolest art that I've seen has been in India.
I think that's a really good answer.
But I have a different question for you.
Okay.
If you had to do a large art exhibition or collection, what sort of medium would you use to present your art?
Oh, that's really good. I think doing like something mixed media would be like really fun. I have no ability to do that.
Likewise.
But if in a utopia, I would do like mixed media. I know how to crochet. I love crocheting. It'd be like kind of clothing centered a little bit. It'd take like different aspects from like different mediums, like jewelry, like metal, fabric, paint. I think it would be really cool. Yeah.
Sounds like an art exhibit worth visiting.
Yeah, and it's coming soon.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Let me know when the flyers are out.
I'll
we'll get them around
send
time.
them to you personally.
But until then, though, I think we're going to have to move on to the next section.
Okay, let's.
All right, then.
Hey Titans, this is Sarah Leon, the managing editor of The Daily Titan. Stay connected and follow us at The Daily Titan on social media. Be sure to pick up a copy of our broadsheet in the orange newsstands. And if you want more stories, check us out online.
How many texts would you say that you get on your phone, just on average?
Too many?
Too many?
Yeah.
Would you say it's an issue of constant communication?
Almost, yeah, I would.
Well, I'm actually so glad you mentioned that, because here with us today is Gizelle Medina to talk about her column about constant communication and how it affects relationships. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for coming. Are you happy to be back on podcast? This is your second
This is
time?
only my second time.
Oh my god.
Congratulations. So, tell us a little bit about your column and like what inspired you to write it.
Honestly, I was having a discussion with my mom about how like her and my dad got back together after 10 years of no contact, and she like bragged about how she never spent a singular like cent or dollar on international phone calls because he was living in LA at the time and she was all the way in Vancouver. And I was a little salty about that gesture because I was like, wait, that doesn't like exist in modern day romance, because you have things like Instagram DMs, text messages, FaceTime, and like I just feel like notifications are always blowing up my phone, so much so that like I've even silenced my phone. And then I thought about the way that like affects the expectations we have of people in relationships, whether that's like immediacy and the way that people reply, and just like general quality of relationships because of this epidemic.
Yeah, and I really liked the column. I thought it was really well written.
Yeah.
I think it also had a very personal touch to it. What has been like your experience, like as you've like said in the article, like with constant communication in more romantic relationships?
Yeah, I definitely think I would use like the amount of communication with my partner. I'm currently in a relationship that I've taken the time to kind of navigate these expectations because of constant communication. I think sometimes we use the quantity of messages as a metric of the quality of your relationship. Like if they're replying super fast, or if you get a good morning text and a good night text, like these are like all quantitative indicators of a quality relationship that I just don't think is true. And I think if you're a little anxious like me, I kind of treated those metrics as gospel when like I think it was more of an evaluation of the social culture that created those expectations.
I think that's a really good analysis of it.
Yeah.
I also kind of agree that it's a pretty like new culture, I guess, that's like come about with the like rise of the internet and social media, like specifically the ability to kind of use like response times and like the amount and volume of like responses as like kind of a science of like how into you someone is.
And I think going from like a cultural perspective, I think COVID might have had like a level of a role to play with that, with that being our only way of communicating with others, not being able to see them physically. So sort of like the metrics of how often you were able to communicate with anyone, whether it's friends or in a relationship, was sort of spurred on by the fact that that was the only way to talk to someone. So now that we've sort of reintegrated in the world, it seems like that sort of metric of how to measure a relationship has become even more emphasized with the growth of like new social media, or even like the advancements in existing social medias.
Yeah, and that was also something that you like touched on in your article.
One of the professors that I interviewed, she's an HCOM professor, Irene Matz. Dr. Matz actually talked about how, at least within the academic space, after coming out of like post-pandemic world, people are actually opting for like this remote version of communication in like the professional realm, but I think that bleeds over into our social culture as well, of when people are opting for this like remote option or this online persona rather than face-to-face communication. And then if you are talking about the social sphere in particular, and you think about third spaces like kind of disappearing. I touched upon a study that talked about alcoholism actually being down amongst this like generation of 18 to or 21 to early 30-year-olds. While less alcohol consumption is a good thing in the health aspect, it's actually an indicator that our socialization has changed and people are going out less, and there's less opportunities to sort of connect.
Yeah, and then it was just kind of like that sentiment of like our generation facing kind of like a loneliness epidemic. I thought that was really interesting. And then beyond that, you also talked about kind of how the algorithm affects how we view like relationships, how like the relationships that we have with our phones as compared to the relationships that we have with other people. I thought that was like really interesting. I guess, what is your like call to action? Like, what should people do to kind of combat these like growing feelings of anxiety that are tied to like online communication?
I definitely think stop playing the blame game. I don't think it's just the social media or just the technology, and I don't think the solution is, just unplug. Like, we live in a digital world. Like, you have to know how to embed it properly in your routine and in a healthy manner. So it's not this extreme of just lose the tech or stop texting your partner. I think it's sort of evaluate the way that you feel close and fulfilled to people. I think it's less of a rigid metric and more of a feeling or a connection between people, and sort of just evaluating your relationships and where you feel the most safe.
Definitely. And I mean, with this being such a sort of personal article to you, and with your experience sort of shaping the basis of this article, what was the writing process kind of like in terms of navigating those interviews, and also how you went about sort of combining these thoughts into one like cohesive sort of like article?
It was honestly really difficult. I don't think I've ever written anything personal for a more formal or professional publication. That's definitely something I usually like leave in the journal or something casual that I'll post on social media. But I think it was a process that I think was really important to be difficult in order to properly articulate the legitimate stats that I got, the very insightful interviews that I had, in my own personal experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have a question for you guys. If you guys could bring back one means of communication that's died out, what would it be?
Carrier pigeons.
I was gonna say that.
Too bad.
Okay, backup answer, flower language. I think that's really good.
That's tough.
We gotta bring it
That's
back.
tough.
What about you?
Maybe it's like not that outdated, but letters. Like, I love a handwritten letter.
And it would be even more romantic, delivered by a carrier pigeon.
I agree.
Is all I'm saying.
So true. Well, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate hearing about the article.
It was lovely talking to you.
Thanks for
Absolutely.
having me.
Of course.
We'll see you again so soon.
You know what they say, another segment, we gotta shoot it.
Like, I get it. Like basketball, like men's basketball.
Like men's and you know, there's a man here to talk about basketball.
Oh, this is my favorite. Who is this man?
You wouldn't believe it's our makeshift sports correspondent, but cemented digital managing editor, Sergio Gonzalez.
Oh my god, welcome back.
How are we doing? Glad to be back.
Doing good,
Glad to
doing
have
good.
you back.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about this road game that men's basketball team went on.
Yeah, they played this Saturday against Wyoming. It was their first road game of the year and their second game of the season. They unfortunately lost 92-82.
This seems like a big difference from what they put up in their home opener.
A bit, I would say. I mean, they scored 136 in their home opener on Monday, which was a program game high, which is kind of crazy. Granted, the competition was Division III Caltech, but 136 is still, it's still a lot of points, especially for this is this team's like first time go around. I mean, obviously it was their season opener, and they only returned one player from last season, so it's obviously promising to see them adapt in that way like very quickly. But obviously they did face their first D1 comp in Wyoming, but it is a bit of a different opponent. I mean, they're in a better conference and whatnot. They have better programs in most sports.
Absolutely.
But yeah, they put up a good contest. I mean, it was close throughout, but they did not pull away with the win.
Definitely. What were the sort of takeaways you made from this game?
A couple of standouts. Jefferson de la Cruz Monegro, very long name.
Sick name.
Yeah, it is. He tied for the game high lead for the Titans. He had 21 on 5 and 9 shooting, 5 boards, and he also had a pretty good game in their first game. And then freshman Bryce Cofield had 21 points on 7 of 12 shooting. He's looking pretty solid, especially for a freshman.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And with this being their second game, did you feel like there was more chemistry between the team in this loss despite it being a loss?
I would say it was definitely more of a challenge, so yes. They minimized their rotation a little bit. I mean, obviously, when you're scoring 136 points, you're going to throw a good chunk of that roster in there. So this time we got to see a little more of like that centered core of who's really going to be playing in each and every game. But personally, I'm a bit of a fan of the rotations. I think Coach Dedrick Taylor's playing his cards well. He's always had a bit of an interesting way of going about it because, like, their high score from their first game, Jayden Henderson, he had 25 points, like 5 threes and whatnot. Mm-hmm. He didn't start that day. He also didn't start this game, but he led the team, or he was second on the team, in minutes.
Okay.
So, like, little things like that he'll do, it's just, like, kind of interesting, but they're figuring out the rotation as they go. And I remember last year they changed their starting lineup, like, a bunch.
Yeah.
So.
And there's one return on the team, right? Kendrick DeLuna?
Yes.
How has he been from, like, last season compared to, like, these first 2 games out the gate?
He's been pretty solid. I mean, he struggled a little bit against Wyoming. He didn't have the best stat line. He shot only 1 of 7. But he had a good first game. It's a very interesting guy to watch because, I mean, like you mentioned, he's the only guy returning, and he's now an upperclassman, so he has somewhat of, like a
leadership
vocal,
kind of role?
Yeah, and it's something that's definitely new. I mean, he's been there since he was a freshman, but it's very intriguing. I'm very high on the guy, and I think he has a lot of potential. I mean, 6'11", he can move himself pretty nicely and, like, expand on the court a little bit, create some space, but, yeah.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
With this sort of being their second game, what do you predict for them coming up?
Coming up, I think it's just really getting a feel for this team. I mean, obviously the first game was pretty damn promising, but you do have some tough tests coming up. On Monday, they play Cal Berkeley on the road.
What division is Cal Berkeley? D1?
They're D1. They used to be Pac-12 conference. Now they're
right.
ACC. But it's a pretty good comp. Maybe one of the best comps they'll have all year.
Definitely. And it's probably good to get it out the way earlier in the season, kind of like test themselves, see what the new rotation's looking like against like a top-class opponent. No,
for sure. It'll definitely be an interesting test. And 2 days after that game, too, so we'll see how quickly they can make that adjustment. But granted, it is early in the year, and like the whole point of non-conference is to build up for the conference, and they have a lot of time to do that.
Right. How long is this road trip lasting them?
This road trip is only 2 games.
Okay.
So just Saturday, Monday, and they'll come back home on Saturday and play the University of Pacific.
Ooh.
Yes.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I do gotta ask though, if the rotation was up to you, who do you want to see more minutes out of coming out the rotation?
I would say that a couple of different guys come to mind. First, I would say Landon Seaman because he came in averaging 20 points from Menlo College last year. He's a grad student. He's 6'8". He plays a really good 4. I feel like him at the 4 alongside a center like Ben Winker, who's kind of proved himself a little bit in a couple of games, and KDL, who we've talked about as like a leader. I feel like they could be really crucial together, but I'm not too sure at the same time. In their first game, Coach was playing Seaman at the 5, which I was a little bit like...
6'8" at the 5?
A little bit.
Seems a little bit undersized.
Yeah, but also it's like if he's more of a scorer, we might as well have him as a 4, and honestly, he has a perfect size for it.
Yeah.
So I would say him. I think he has some untapped potential. He had 12 points on 3 of 5 shooting against Wyoming, which is obviously good. He only played 21 minutes off the bench, but improvement. He only played 16 in the first.
Right.
And then another guy I would say is KJ Garris. He had a very impressive 22 points in their home or season opener, and I feel like I really like his game. Like he was kind of like all over the place, like offensively, defensively. He was kind of spreading the floor. He's 6'5", freshman. He moves like really nicely.
Where do they have him at?
They had him at like a 2 and a 3.
Okay.
Yeah, but against Wyoming, he only got 6 minutes, didn't score, had 1 shot, missed it. I don't really know what happened there, but I feel as if, like, I don't know.
Just
I
first
like
game
his
jitters,
potential.
you know?
Like, I saw him that first game. I was at that season opener.
Well, thank you.
Well, I feel like I've talked your ear off, so I'm gonna let you go.
Okay, thank you so much. You were a little bit, but it's okay.
I know, but it's okay.
I get it. Yeah.
I'll let you go recuperate a little bit, and maybe we'll see you next week.
Yeah, maybe.
I
Bye.
hope so. Bye.
Bye. And that's it for this week's episode of GT Pod. Be sure to pick up a copy of the Daily Titan on campus, or check us out at dailytitan.com to read the articles mentioned in today's episode. Thank you all for listening, and as always, if you like us, we love you.
Alright, Titans, you know what month it is, and you know what season it is. It's the season to give thanks. So before you step off this episode, you know we got to give a special thank you to our executive producers, Sergio Gonzalez and Jayden Lovelady. We also got to give another big thank you to our producer, Michelle King, and an even bigger thank you to our assistant producers, Gizelle Medina and Raniel Santos. An even bigger thank you is going out to Bijan Shoushtarizadeh for supplying the music used in this week's episode. And the biggest thank you we could possibly manage is going out to everyone for listening to this episode. Keep up with Daily Titan, pick up a copy of that broadsheet, and check us out at dailytitan.com. We'll see you soon, Titans. Thank you.